faith, family, business, adventure. This is the Phoenix Podcast with KenSharpe.
Good day and welcome to the Phoenix Podcast Show with KenSharpe. In the Phoenix Show, we bring you interesting individuals who rise from the ashes. And today it's my privilege to introduce my friend, More Nyazungu. And it's Jerry Moore, right? It's not Jerry Moore.
Yeah.
More of Jerry.
More of Jerry, yeah.
So we'll get more into your name in a minute. But I believe also Nyanzungu is somehow related to Marungu.
Marungu, yeah, Wazungu.
So we are related
Exactly.
in a way. Well, Jerry Moore is a highly skilled and experienced business consultant, trainer, and entrepreneur. With over 15 years' experience in his field dating back to the days where, wait for it, he sold as a vendor on the streets and has risen to the office of the C-suite, the chief executive. So we're excited to hear from you. Tell us straight away, Jerry, how did you get started?
Okay, so I'm from Watsomba. Watsomba is about 40 kilometers from Mutare. So when I went to school in Marish Brothers, then A-level I did at Hartsdale. Soon after finishing my A-level, I noticed that my father, because he was a civil servant, a soldier, he didn't have money to send me to school. So yes, I had a choice to get to Midland State University. I had the place. He said I should go to university, but I said to him, I think you cannot afford. So I decided to be a temporary teacher. So I was a temporary teacher for about 8 months. Then when I was there, I saw a newspaper, which was, in those days when you get a newspaper, you'd not easily dispose it. So it was a very old newspaper. When I picked up that newspaper, it had a story from a T-boy to the Reserve Bank governor. Then it was a story of Dr. Gideon Gono. Right. So when I started reading that story, I never knew that you can be someone without getting through the university. It was my first time hearing about that. So it said Dr. Gideon Gono did his CIS. Then I said, okay, so I can also do my CIS without necessarily getting into university. Then I said, no, my mom, please get me a place in Harare. I need somewhere to stay. So I got into Harare in 2005.
Wow.
After leaving.
That's your first time coming to
That was my
Harare.
first time, and I still remember whenever I was lost, I was told by my mother that whenever you're lost, just to try to get back to the Reserve Bank, because it's the tallest building in town. Right. So I would always, when I'm lost, I would get back to the Reserve Bank. So I started staying with my relatives. I know they're my cousins. Then I started staying with them in Glenview. Then when I was staying with them, I started working at, I was fortunate. 1 week after, I got a job at Edgar's, the distribution center. We're distributing clothes around the country. Then after about 7 months, my contract expired. Then it expired.
What kind of job did you get?
I was, you're picking, also doing what is called ticketing with the ones who are putting all those prices. I think up to now, they're still using the same model. Right. So it was very tough and would rest by getting into the toilet.
Sure.
And
so physically demanding. It
was demanding. So sometimes we'd rest, 5 minutes, you're called back. That's what we'd do. So when the contract expired, I think it was, exact date was 25th of June. Then they said, no, we're terminating your contracts by the 30th. My cousins also said, I think for 7 months you're in town, I think you can now stay on your own. But they didn't know that I no longer had a job. So I was given my $9.5 million, not the US dollars, the Beira checks.
This is in 2016?
This is 2005.
And 5?
Yeah.
Whoa.
This was 2005, that was now 2006.
Okay.
When I was given that $9.5 million Beira checks.
Close to hyperinflation.
Exactly. Just to give you a hint, 500,000 would buy an airtime card. So it wasn't a lot of money.
Right.
So when they chased me out of the house and when I also lost a job, I said, I'm now going back to Atsomba. Then there's no way I'm going back. I would rather find somewhere to stay. And by that time, you were congratulated to actually get somewhere to stay because I think we didn't have a lot of houses. Thanks to you now, we now have a lot of residential places and most of the people in Zimbabwe can now own a house, thanks to you guys. So I was staying with Ambuya Tendai, and that's the house which I got, and she was very tough. And when I was staying, the reason why I got that place, it was because she was tough, so no one wanted to stay with her.
She was not your relative?
She was not my relative.
Right.
So I was renting there, I paid my 4 million, I remained with the other 4 million. Then I said, what can I do? When I was walking around, I noticed that there were a lot of vendors Then I said, okay, fine. There's this airtime which is there. Remember, 10% of the population had phones. So it was kind of lucrative vending. So I started off with airtime.
Right.
The reason being not everyone was doing it.
Uh-huh.
So I started by selling about 8 airtime cards. That's how I started.
Per day?
No, not per day.
In
I
what-
would stay. I still remember first day when I started vending, I only made my first sale was after 3 days.
Whoa.
That's how tough it was.
To sell one card?
To sell one card. So I started selling more now because people started knowing that I was in this business of selling airtime cards. Then afterwards, I had to switch in about 3 months into start selling sweets, bananas, donuts, and cigarettes. So I was selling at corner Patrenda and Willovo. And most of my fellow vendors I was selling at that time, they're still vendors. So it's a story which can be easily tracked into Glenview 4, Woody Road 2. I was selling in front of a police station. That's what I was doing. And I think at one point in 2008, I was actually 2009 to be specific, because that's when we're now using US dollars. And there was a scarcity of airtime. So what we'd do is, a card for $5, would sell it for $6. Then at one point, I sold it to a policeman. I didn't know that this guy was a policeman because he was in civil. Then he went back to the camp. He brought back his guys. Then they wanted to take me to the police, to the cage. Then I said no. They wanted to arrest me. Then I said no. I just arrived from restocking my airtime. So I had about $300 worth of airtime. So I said, no way, I'm going to lose everything, because that was between me and poverty. Then I ran away. But I ran away, and I knew that these guys would still catch me. They knew where I stayed. They knew where I was selling. Then I just went back, and they caught me. I was beaten 40 cuts under my foot. And being arrested by city council, police guys, it wasn't something, we're now used to it.
So this is a dangerous life.
It's a dangerous life. So that's how I survived as a vendor. I was 19 when I started off as a vendor. And yeah, when I was beaten, I think I was around 22 now.
So what does that do to you? How does that toughen you? And how does it make you still smile the way you smile?
Yeah, so the reason being is I still remember that time things were tough. You know, as kids, you're also hearing a lot of political news. The reason why you guys are suffering is because there's bad politics, bad economy. But I say to myself, most of the people are flocking to South Africa. I think most of my fellow vendors, they went into SA. But I say to myself, I'll only go to SA when I'm employing South Africans, not when I'm going there for employment.
Right.
So I would rather survive on the streets. And I believe that, no, that was the time. And it toughened me because I was also going to school, doing my CIS now because of Dr. Gideon Gono. Also, I started pursuing CIS whilst I was doing my vending. And I finished the whole CIS without getting into the classroom as well.
Amazing.
Because of...
How long did that take?
It took me from 2007. I finished in 2012.
So you graduated?
I graduated.
So you're a qualified CIS?
I'm a qualified chartered secretary.
Amazing.
Exactly.
A street vendor who's a qualified chartered secretary.
Yeah.
So tell me, when you were going through those difficult days, what was it that drove you to continue? What made you so committed to see it through?
Yeah, it was because of passion to say, I think it's just a phase. Because I still remember when I was telling my fellow vendors that you see me today, come and see me after 10 years, I won't be where I am. Even when I was also working at Edgar's, I still remember this other guy, he was permanent. So I used to laugh at us because people said, the management said your contract has expired. So they were now laughing at us. You guys, you don't have anywhere to go. You're going to suffer. Then I told him that, no, find me in 10 years. I might provide employment for you. So that was the drive. Even right now, I still have that kind of drive because my vision is to say, I want to build timeless businesses, not in Zimbabwe, but in Africa. And also, I want to train at least 1 million Africans.
1 million?
Yes.
Wow. People, did you hear that? 1 million
1 million Africans. Entrepreneurship and sales. So I said it's a mandate. If I die without training 1 million people, I don't think I'll be happy.
So where did this vision come from? How did you set the goal of 1 million?
I say to myself, I noticed that the reason why America is where it is, the reason why the first world is where it is, you look at China, you look at Europe, you look at America, it's because these guys, they've got an advantage. The things they are teaching their kids, and it's different from what we are learning here. The old way of thinking, like right now, there's no university which is providing sales as a degree. But if you get into the first world, they're learning sales, because when you don't know sales, you don't know life. Because sales it's life. It's not something which you're doing for a corporate or selling goods or selling services, but you're doing it for yourself. Because wherever you are, you're selling. So I say to myself, I think I've got a mandate to say, from Cape to Cairo, I need to train at least 1 million Africans. From those 1 million, they're also going to train others. So that Africa will stop depending on the first world. Like we've got rich minerals, we've got a rich climate, but we find ourselves begging. Why? It's because we're bad negotiators. We are bad at selling. We are also bad at entrepreneurship. So I say that's my mandate.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, let's go back to the university discussion, because we were blessed this year. Our daughter went to do a master's degree in California, in Los Angeles at a university called USC, University of Southern California. And I didn't know this, but she told me it's the first university in America to have the business school of entrepreneurship, to have its own entrepreneurship faculty. Do we have anything like this in Zimbabwe?
We don't.
So maybe that's another...
We don't. Like what you're also saying, I've also tried to push for, because of time, sometimes I'm trying to also push to train other entrepreneurs, because I'm a consultant. I have worked with a lot of companies, big and small. I've noticed most of the basic mistakes which you usually make in business. And I feel like if we've got a practical entrepreneurship school, yes, they're offering a degree called Business Management and Entrepreneurship at University of Chinoy, but not to discount the lecturers who are doing it, but it's theory. People are getting into the class. So entrepreneurship is like swimming. You cannot learn it in class. It's like also sales. You cannot learn it in class. So like riding a bicycle. You need something which is practical, whereby people are taught how to build a business. And also, our school, especially here in Africa, we're taught that failing is wrong. But you see that as an entrepreneur, failing is actually good. I think there's a guy from South Africa, Vusi Tembekwayo, with his My Growth Fund. He said he can only fund someone who has failed before, because he's got experience of failure, hence he can be successful in entrepreneurship. But in schools, we are taught that failure is bad. Hence, that's why you see that most of the A class, the guys who get 15 points, the guys who used to get 20 points, 10 A's, they cannot be successful. Most of them, they fail in business because there's a lot of failure.
So I'm going to come back to you and ask you to share your biggest failure. But before I do that, I want to talk to you about your successes. There's a saying in life, we can be driven by success, but when we achieve success, it becomes more about finding significance. There's even a book, From Success to Significance. So tell us the story of your big successes and why you've taken it one step further, because I see now with what you're doing, you've written a book. We're going to talk about that in a minute. You started your company, M&J. Tell us what it was for you to have those successes, because I see you're a very driven person, and you obviously had goals. I mean, you weren't going to give up.
Yeah, so the successes, I think my biggest success, which I would term success or probably lead to success, because I also say to myself, I suffered when I was trying to look for employment. You get to this company, they tell you that you're not qualified. It took me years for me to get a job. And I said to myself, I need to provide also employment, especially to the youths, and also to people who are disadvantaged, like people who cannot send themselves to university, people who cannot, some people are very intelligent, very capable, but because of circumstances, sometimes they cannot even get to O level, they cannot get to A level. So I've also started an Ochara Consultants, which is saying we employ based on skill and based on attitude, not on qualifications. Hence, I also have people, my best salesperson right now doesn't have a degree, doesn't have A level, she's just an ordinary level lady, but she's my best. So I said that I think it's a success, because I want to change the way we think as what everyone is doing. Because right now, is when you're looking for someone who does sales, they're looking for a degree, they're looking for a diploma, but they're forgetting these people who are capable. But because of circumstances, someone is going to be impregnated, or they're informed to, probably they're never going to get back to school. That person can be someone in life. So that's that's my biggest success of actually employing around 70 youths. Because my team, they are all under 35 in Zambia and Zimbabwe, and they're also studying in South Africa as well. So I've said I will only take the young ones and I'll grow with them. So I think that's my biggest success. Also, I've noticed that when I tell my story, it's changing people. At one point, I was in Bulawayo, then this guy just rushed to me and said, "No, you cannot buy you cannot buy your lunch. I'm buying your lunch. Lunch is on me, and I'm also giving you $50. Please, just accept." Then I said, "Why?" Then he said, "You once said something on Facebook. Here's my car. I started a business 2 years ago. Then I'm now driving a car."
Amazing.
Then I said, to me, that's influence. To me, that's success. Because my success is seen on other people.
I love that.
Yeah.
Your success is seeing others being successful.
Exactly.
And coming back to the significance. So tell us, you've reached a level of success. How are you going to become significant in your life? What legacy are you going to leave behind?
I think I need to be remembered as someone who revolutionized sales and entrepreneurship. I want people to say there was this other guy who came out of nothing with that vendor tag, and he used it to generate more vendors and to transform Africa. I'm very passionate about it. Makes me feel like crying when I see how we behave as Africans, as rich as we are in terms of resources, abundance, but we find ourselves, our kids, going to UK looking for menial jobs. We are all over the world, but we're living a continent with milk and honey. So to me, I feel that soft skill is the one which is lacking. Yes, we know how to farm. Yes, we know how to mine, but we are selling that mineral as it is. Why can't we polish that mineral? Why can't we start saying, probably for the European countries, for European investors to get into this country, you're supposed to establish your polishing plant in Zimbabwe, in Zambia, in Rwanda. That's what we want. I feel like we're supposed to be doing as Africans. So I feel like these soft skills of saying we can do it as Africans. We are capable of doing it. We are capable of competing with the first world without necessarily begging. I'm always, I'm a little bit unhappy when I hear about foreign direct investments, when I hear about we're waiting for a certain donor, because we've got everything as Africans. So, but I feel like we're lacking on that soft skill, entrepreneurship and sales.
And do you think it's more aptitude or attitude? And let me rephrase that, or let me frame that correctly. I believe in Zimbabwe and in life generally, you have two types of people.
Exactly.
They either see the glass half full
Exactly.
or half empty.
Exactly.
So is that an attitude? Is that a mindset? Or is it really an aptitude? Is it a skill thing? What have you experienced in these thousands or tens of thousands of people that you've been training?
Yeah, some of them it's because of the mindset. Most of them it's because of the mindset. If we tell them that, no, you can rise from nothing and end up being where Mr. Ken is, people say, no, it's because he's connected. But I'm saying, no, who wants to be connected to a broke person? If he has got a connection, he worked for that connection. Because for me to get your number, I have to do something. I cannot just come from Watsomba and I get connected to you. It's impossible. So it's a mindset issue. Everyone who is successful in Zimbabwe say that they've got a snake, they're politically connected. If it's a lady, there's a sugar daddy. So it's about mindset. So we need to change that kind of mindset to say everyone has got a chance to succeed. The cake is just too big. Just concentrate on what you're doing. Tomorrow you might wake up, people are there now saying you're the one with the snake. So I'm saying it's a mindset issue, and also there are people who've got good mindset, good attitude. I've trained a lot of salespeople. I've trained a lot of business owners, very good with good mindset, but sometimes they lack knowledge now. They know where they want to go, but they don't know the road. So, and I'm also saying, bring a lot of people, the people who have experienced that road, to also tell their stories. If you notice, even in Zimbabwe, most of the people, they don't have culture of writing their stories. I'm also challenging you Mr. Ken, you have to write your story. Because it's going to be read next 50 years. You never know how it's going to transform other person's life in next 100 years. So if you write that down, I think they've actually said if you want to hide something, especially from us, black people, put it in writing. If you notice, the books which are being lent in UZ are different from the books which are being provided on Amazon. You look at, for example, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's a very good book which can transform anyone's life, but it's not being lent in schools. Why? There's a certain way of, we are used to our old way of thinking. So there's a mindset issue, yes. There's also an issue of lacking of skills, especially in those with good mindset.
So we're going to come back to the book in a minute.
Yeah.
But I'm not letting you off the significant part yet. I know there's more in it.
No problem.
And this significance, or rising to significance, becoming significant, it normally happens over a long period of time. And I love your optimism and confidence in yourself. That's obviously one of the factors that have driven you to have the success that you've had.
Yeah.
But if you look at the Zimbabwean situation, you mentioned you employ everyone is under 35. And our average population in Zimbabwe of under 26 is 61%.
Yep.
Just imagine 61% of Zimbabwe is under 26 years of age
Exactly.
today. So it looks like you're investing in the future.
Exactly.
Why are you doing that, and how do you project that? Thinking about this significance, what do you see happening in the next 10, 20, 30, maybe even 50 years' time of your life?
Yeah, thank you so much. I feel like if we invest more into these young people, I tell you, I've got excellent young people I've worked with. Some are still with me. Some have left. Some are also doing their own things. So I feel like the future is now. These guys, they need to be given their mandate. They are the guys who are going to change this economy. Sometimes we might fail. But I feel like what I said, we need to build timeless businesses. I think we've heard of a lot of bus companies, popular bus companies, but when the owner dies, it dies with them. So we need that culture now to say, if I'm doing something today, I'm doing it for the next generation. Even the way I'm driving on road, the way I'm going to be doing anything, I should be leaving it to the next generation. Was my vision, to be honest, is more than, my vision is 100 years, 200 years.
Amazing.
I might fail to succeed today, but I want the next generation to be successful. I want someone probably to say, no, it was because of Ken, it was because of Jerry. That's the reason why in probably 2100, we are now successful as Africans. We are now having British people coming to seek employment in Harare. We are now having Americans coming to seek employment, not working for American companies, but working for African companies in Lusaka, in Malawi, in Blantyre. That's my vision. That's what I feel like we need to do that. And we can start doing it now. Sometimes that process, people are going to say, we're never going to achieve it. But I have a strong feeling that Africans are capable. We are capable of doing that.
You've heard it, people. Let's create timeless businesses for the next generation. I love that.
Yeah.
So coming back to the book, Jerry, tell us, and I believe you wrote the first book, The Chartered Vendor.
Yes.
I can see it there on the table. Can I show the viewers and subscribers? So
Yeah.
it's a picture of you, I guess,
Yes.
on the table.
Yeah, on
Is
the
that what your
table.
table looked like?
Yes.
So that's you selling cigarettes and
In
sweets
before.
and bananas?
Yeah, that old car is still there.
And what is in the cooler box?
The freezes.
Freezers. So you
Yeah.
were selling freezers as well?
Yeah, I was selling those freezers where there was one of a young sister or a young kid I was selling with. Fortunately, I bumped into that kid just 2 months ago. She's now a grown-up lady. So she should leave me with the freezers, and I would also sell everything as well.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So this book, I believe you wrote it in a month or so.
Yeah.
It's 194 pages.
Yeah.
And I believe you didn't have much time to write it, so you were spending between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. every day
Yes.
writing it.
Yes.
So how did this get started? What gave you the inspiration to start writing a book, and how old were you when you wrote it?
Okay, I wrote it in 2021, in January. That's when I started. I am, like what I said, I'm fortunate to have young people who are capable, young people who believe in the mission. So we were discussing in a meeting. It was actually a management meeting. Then I said, we used to use these strategies when we were vendors. So I started explaining what we were doing as vendors. Because vendors, there's also a lot of competition. So at one given time, at one point, I was doing payphones. You know those
Yes.
payphones?
Yes.
Very old payphones. That's what I was doing. So there was someone who was competing against me fiercely.
At the same location?
At the same location, because it was a friend, but we started competing. Then I said, the reason why I beat that guy, it was because of customer service. It was because of loyalty customers. It was because I would treat people well. That's when I started learning about sales. I started learning about it without knowing that I was doing sales, I was doing marketing. So when I was telling them, then he said, but we can just come with a book. And his name is Tendai Matsikinyere. He said, no, I think you can just come with a book. Then I said, Tendai, English, I never used to like writing. I think my worst subject was English literature, and I dropped that subject. So forget about writing books. Then he kept on saying, I know we should write a book. If I can even, if you want, I can assist you. Then I said, oh, that's okay. Come up with a framework. How should I write? Then I said, just write whatever you were saying, just start writing. So when I started writing, I noticed that, okay, the story is flowing, and I'm writing everything because it's my story. So that's how I came up with this book, and we decided to call it The Chartered Vendor. If you notice on the cover, the chartered is a bit smaller than the vendor.
Right.
So what I'm saying is I learned much on the streets as compared to what I learned in school. My 17 years in education system, I noticed that what I learned on the streets, how to deal with people, how to negotiate deals, how to start budgeting, financial literacy. You are now paying rentals. Because like right now, our kids are not being taught about financial literacy. They don't know how to budget. I'm now starting to, okay, this is my finances. This is how I budget my money. This is how I'm supposed to treat people. This is how I'm supposed to keep my stock. All that I learned as a vendor. So that's why we called it The Chartered Vendor, with the vision of saying, as much as our schools are teaching theory, we need to start teaching more of practical. We should have kids in Form 1, kids in grade 1 being taught about entrepreneurship. They can be given a $10, they can be given a few goods, then let's see how they're going to grow that business. That's why I call it The Chartered Vendor. So it's my biography, and it has got business lessons which I learned when I was starting the journey of M&J, the company which I started in 2014. In November, that's when I registered it, and I started in January alone with only a laptop and the $50. That's what I did with M&J.
And today you have more than 70 people.
70 people.
So coming back to this book, I heard that it cost $20, $20.
Yes.
$20 US, that is.
Yeah.
And I believe you sold more than 12,000.
Exactly.
And the most remarkable thing to me is you sold 99% of these yourself.
Exactly.
Or directly through
my people.
Amazing, amazing. So the second book,
it's called Selling Like a Vendor.
What is the difference with this book?
This one now, it's not more like a sales manual. It teaches you how to sell.
Right.
To say what's the language you're supposed to be using when you're selling. How do you prospect? How do you follow up on a customer? How do you close? How do you negotiate a deal? So it's a book which I've said, that's what I do when I'm also selling. Because people, one guy actually came to me and he said, no, I've written a book. I've written a lot of books, but I've never sold a lot of books like what you're doing. Then I told him that, no, it's because they've written, I think Robert Kiyosaki said, you can have a best written book, but you need a best selling book. So what I'm trying to do is to use my skills to say, how can I also close a deal, have a good product, put it out to people buy, and people, they also need to have someone who's consistent. Like with my book, like especially The Chartered Vendor, from 2021 up to now, I don't usually finish 2 days without posting someone with my book. So everyone who buys my book, I post them on my page.
So I'm buying these books today. You're going to post me?
Yeah, I'll post you.
You've heard
and
it,
I'll
you've
tell.
heard it. Look out for the post.
I'll say a lot of good things about West Prop and everything.
There
So
you
that's
go.
what I also do.
So you've made a sale of 2 more books.
Thank you so much.
So this is 216 pages.
Exactly.
Slightly longer than the other
Than
book.
the other one, yeah.
And I love to go to the end of the book, right? Because
Exactly.
it kind of tells the story. So
Yeah.
this is the final chapters is sales closes. And a sale's not a sale unless you close it, right?
Exactly.
And he's got instant reverse close, spouse stall close.
Yeah.
Think about it, close 2. Think about it, close 3. Sending closes, invitational closes, sandwich close, referral close, apology close. I like this one, down to penny close.
Exactly.
And this one, my daughter would love, a puppy dog close.
Puppy dog close.
So I love those things. But
Yeah.
if there was one thing from this book, one chapter, one paragraph, one sentence that you could communicate to our audience, look into the camera and tell them, what is it?
Yeah, I think it's there's a chapter which I wrote about follow-up. So I'm saying, if you notice, just try to inquire something on websites, on Facebook. If you notice that probably if you're just saying, I want this laptop, probably people will take 7 days, will take 2 days before they respond to you. So following up is very crucial. I call it the holy grail of sales. If you follow up, you can get more clients, you can get more deals. So I've got a statement which I usually say even to my people. So what I say is, if you're a qualified customer, we follow up on you until you buy or until you die, until one of us dies.
Okay.
If you die first, we'll attend your funeral and check if you're really dead.
Oh.
If you're dead, we start following up on your children.
Okay.
So that's my
You
statement.
never give up.
They never
You
give up.
follow them to the next
We
generation.
follow up. I still remember the other deal which you closed at our company. We had followed up on that client for 57 times.
Wow.
Then you close that deal.
That's incredible.
So that's what I'm also saying. If you're sold your product, if you're sold your idea, you need to push it and to close that deal.
So I can see so many similarities with Jerry and myself. We really are related, Jerry. And I think one of them is the willpower to never give up, to keep fighting on, you know?
Exactly.
And I wanted to take you back to this thought of where you came from, your origins. Tell us a little bit about your origins, your parents, your upbringing, the environment you were brought up in, your totem, your clan, what that history, what that linkage, what your heritage means to you. What does your culture mean to you?
Okay, thank you so much. So I was brought up by my father. He was a soldier. And
in the Zimbabwean National Army?
National Army, there's also a war veteran.
Okay.
So he fought in the liberation struggle. So that's why I'm also patriotic. He told us about why he went to fight. So that fighting spirit now, what he used to went through when he was liberating this country. So he said it was tough. Sometimes worms would get into his skin, and he would show us a lot of scratch marks and everything. So that's what it got into me, and I said, I think my father, because he didn't go to school, he started doing his O-level when he was 27 years old. So I said, he did his A-level, but he never pursued after, because he was now looking after us. So I said to myself, if my father failed to do this thing, I think I need to do better for the next generation. I think I need to make sure that whatever he was also fighting for, he can enjoy probably whilst he's still alive, or probably his generation can also enjoy. So that was my father. My father, strict every day. You're supposed to be at home, especially with time. 6 o'clock, we're supposed to be at home. And he wouldn't compromise. He was a strict guy, straightforward. Still patriotic, even up to now, he's still alive, he's dead or somber. Then my mother, housewife, fighting spirit. That one was a vendor now.
Okay.
Because he's the one who taught me selling skills. Because whenever we didn't have fees, she would run around because she's a chera and my father is a soko. So we never used to sleep. We never used to sleep hungry because they would fight for us to go to school, for us to get something. Whenever I didn't have something, my mother would chip in, sell mangoes, sell milk in town in Mtare. And up to now, she still sells. I've said, Mom, why can't you stop selling? But she has got something to sell always. So I think that's where I got that drive to sell. Yeah.
I'm going to give you 2 quotes. One is from Madiba, from Nelson Mandela.
Exactly.
He said, don't judge me by the number of times I fall down, but rather the number of times I get up again.
100%.
And that's the thing, you know, if you don't fail, and I'm going to ask you now what your greatest failure is. If you don't fail, you can't succeed.
That's right.
But there's another saying that I wanted to ask you, and this is something that affected me greatly in the last 2 years of my life. There's a book called Measure What Matters. I've mentioned it on the show.
Yeah.
And John Dewey wrote it, has a remarkable story about having goals, focusing on goals. So that spirit of being broken, of rising again, of choosing a goal and going after it relentlessly like the lioness in a hunt where she focuses on her target is critical. But it also comes from our upbringing, from our childhood. And there's another author who I love, the way he wrote his book, and he's known as the father of innovation, The Innovator's Dilemma he wrote. And he wrote a book later in his life called How You'll Measure Your Life.
Okay.
And in that book, he describes how we as parents try to do more for our children, especially Zimbabwean parents who come from nothing. They try to give everything they've got to educate their children and to give them a hand up, a start in life. But he says it's not what your parents do for you that makes you. It's what they don't do for you that makes you. So how does that reflect to you, and what didn't they do for you that made you?
Yeah, very right. Like, for example, when I noticed that I didn't have money, I couldn't afford to get into university because I had two siblings. The other one was about to get into A level. The other one was about to also get into university. So I said to myself, I think I have to go out and fight. Fight not for me only, but for my family as well. So if they could have afforded to send me to university, there was never going to be that vendor story, which is now a brand on its own, because we now have a company which is employing about 7 people called the Chartered Vendor. And I've got also managers trying to manage the brand as well. So there was never going to have this story, like what you rightfully said. What they didn't do for me, that's what made me who I am today. What they gave me, sometimes it contributed less to what they didn't give me. So sometimes, like what you're also saying, we spare our kids, give them everything. Sometimes we are not doing them a favor.
Yes.
Because we're giving them everything. We're saying, no, if my kid is not supposed to stay hungry, my kid is not supposed to, like my kid, I've actually started teaching my kid sales. She's 8 years old. And I've told her that I can only give you money when you've done something. So recently she sold 2 books to a teacher and I gave her commission. She was so excited. So I said to her, whenever you want money, at least do some work. Go and clean my car. Go and help the nanny. That's how we are going to get money. You're never going to get freebies. When you want pizza, you need to do something. So I think that culture now is what we need to also do for our kids. For them not to get everything. It's supposed to be free, supposed to be easy. Because I think there's a guy who was saying your kid can drive a Lamborghini, but the next generation might end up also walking. Because why? If strong men, we've got a tendency of creating weaker kids, then the weaker kids are going to also create stronger men. So it's not supposed to be a vicious cycle. Sometimes our kids are supposed to also have a feel of what we went through so that they can also transform their mindset as well.
And talking about that mindset, Zimbabweans, we have a culture of this kind of jealousy, and we don't really want to celebrate others when they do well.
100%.
But if you look at Americans, they celebrate what's right. I love that part of their culture, that they really take the best of the best and showcase it. And I think we as Zimbabweans need to take a leaf out of this book
100%.
and learn that it's not about what our parents do for us. It's not about what the previous generation has done for us. We need to do it ourselves. We can't keep waiting for, as you said, the outside world to come and save us.
Exactly.
We have to save ourselves.
Exactly.
And the time to start is now.
100%.
So moving to this last kind of part of our show, I wanted to hear the softer side of Jerry. I wanted you to tell us a bit about your faith. I see that you're a warrior. You really are a warrior. But when you talk about your life, it's almost like a godly print. It's like a blueprint of God's instruction. I'm seeing behind the writings of your life that you're following God's way. And I don't know your faith. I don't know if you have a faith, but I'd love to hear what you think about religion and faith and how that's helped you.
Yes, I think just probably to get into the book, The Selling Like a Vendor, my best salesperson to ever stepped on this planet is Jesus Christ.
Wow.
Why? Whenever you'd ask him, he would answer you with a question or with a parable. Good salespeople, they ask questions. Good salespeople, they show you that you need a product, you need a service. So Jesus Christ managed to show everyone that he was the way, he was the life. So to me, that sums up what I believe in, because I believe in that to be who I am today, the mandate which I'm trying to drive, the vision and everything, it is impossible when you don't have God. Whatever I'm doing is not because I know, even I notice many people have written books. At one point I was talking to one of my colleagues, not my colleague per se, he was a father figure in my life when I was a vendor, Aaron Chundramoy. I don't know if you know him.
No.
Aaron Chundramoy is one of the best authors in Zimbabwe, Shona author. So he's written about 13 set books. But you're saying, I never got any money from them. So it's not because Jerry is clever that I'm probably building a house from the book. I also think that in the next few years, I'll be coming to West Prop, buying, and I'll be telling you that I got this from the book, from speaking engagements. It's none other than God. We are all spiritual human beings. And I also want to tell everyone, wherever you are doing, put God first, and everything can be in the place.
Thank you, Jerry. So 2 verses come to mind as you've spoken to me today. The first one is your daughter. The Bible says, train up a way a child should go, and when they get older, they won't depart from it.
Exactly.
And the other one is, all things work for the good. This is Romans 8:28, my favorite verse.
Exactly.
All things work for the good to those who love God, those who are called by Him. And I believe you have a very strong calling on your life. 1 million people is not a joke. That's
It's
serious.
a joke. It's such a joke.
And I just bless you and wish you the very best. Before we go, I wanted to come back to this question.
Yeah.
Being a humble man, being a God-fearing man, what is your greatest failure in life? And look to our viewers in the camera then. Tell them, how did you fail?
Okay, my greatest failure was I've got a lot of failures, but I'll mention this one. I wanted to expand into Zambia. That was during COVID-19, 2020. I got into Zambia in March 2020. Then I saw an opportunity that, I think we can establish a company in Zambia. So I registered a company. I partnered with other guys to register that company. Then we started off. After about, because I couldn't get into Zambia because that's when we had that shutdown. Then, when I was now in that country, I employed Zambians. We started working together, and I was also working with my Zimbabwean brothers at the same place. Then, I lost, things didn't go well, to the extent that we had to shut down the Zambian operations, and we lost money. By that time, we couldn't afford the money, which we lost a lot of money. But I said to myself, no, when we lose something, we have to try again. So we reopened in 2021.
In Zambia?
And in Zambia.
You didn't give up.
And up to now, I think we're not even employing about 10 people in Zambia.
Wow.
And things are now back, they're now in place. So I think that was my greatest failure, to say you lose money, you trust people, you trust a system, then a system, it bites you. So that's my biggest failure. I think I've got a lot of them.
I know that failures are really what makes us
Exactly.
alive. And we wouldn't have our lives any other way without having those failures.
Exactly.
I did write a book. My daughter wrote it for me. This year I turned 50. It's called From Nothing, and I will give it to you to read.
Thank you so much.
But I think the closing message I want you to give to your viewers today and to the subscribers is a message of hope, of encouragement.
Yeah.
Please tell them, what is the message, the final message you'd like to give them?
Yeah, what I want to say is you're not defined by what you're driving, but you're defined by what is driving you. So you might have, you didn't have probably the best education, you didn't go to A schools, you didn't go to Prince Edward, you didn't go to St. George's, probably you never even went to school, but you can start learning from these days. You cannot afford to be a crybaby. Books are everywhere. Some of them, they're even for free. Information is everywhere on Facebook. Even right now, as we're doing this podcast, it's going to be on YouTube. Instead of following me, probably it's not wrong to follow music. It's not wrong to follow entertainment. But sometimes start investing in yourself. If you read one paragraph a day, you're changing your life. And I would like to believe that also, even if you read what's in the Bible also, you can put that in practical way of doing your life. I think you can transform. You're not defined by whether you're a vendor in Dulibadzimu, you're a vendor in Mtare, in Sakuva, you are selling sweets right now, police has actually ransacked your market store, you can still do it. Whether you don't have any education, the cake is still the same. You can go out and be someone who's going to employ the educated ones. You can be someone who's going to be probably employing doctors. You can be someone who's going to be employing the chartered accountants. You never know. Whoever also is working for another company, try to treat that company as if it belongs to you. Because charity begins at home. What I noticed is people, they want to be serious when they're now running their own companies. You can start by running other people's companies. Look at the likes of Dr. Douglas Mboweni. He's now very rich, very successful, but he didn't found Econet. So it's not always you're going to find something. What I just want you to do is be positive, have that positive mindset. If you're young, from 20 to 30, it's time to learn. It's not time to earn. So please learn as much as you can. That information, you're going to use it when you're after 30. So Zimbabwe is too big. Africa is too big. We need also to start creating companies in America, start creating companies in the UK. So that's what I want to say to them.
Thank you. You've heard it from the man who rose from the streets, selling like a vendor. Jerry, It's been a privilege having you on the show. Thank you for joining us.
Faith, family, business, adventure. This is the Phoenix Podcast with KenSharpe.